Back to Reads and Threads. My name's Kate. Hello if you're new here. Welcome back if you're joining us again. I am going to be extremely impressed with myself if I can figure out how to get this to work. So I am attempting to screen record my computer and my webcam, and I did it all once on CapCut's web version and it worked, looked like it worked, and now I can't get it to export. So we're going to give it another go, see what happens. I have no idea how people do this. If any tips, tricks, any comments below would be very, very helpful. This video is obviously slightly different to what I would normally do, but we're going to go over my latest challenge that I've come across that I want to attempt to do this year. So this challenge is called HRCYED. It was created by QWERTY and it started on July 7th and it runs through to July 6th, 2026. So you have a whole year to complete it. When I started watching YouTube at the beginning of midway through last year, I had a huge amount of references to people doing HRCYED, and I was like, what is that? Couldn't figure it out. Finally realized what it was, but by then it was way too late to even attempt to try it. And then when I realized that it was about to start again, I saw an announcement video in June and I just thought, why not? I'm probably highly unlikely to be able to finish it considering the amount of books you end up needing to read. It's a bit insane, but I just thought it'd be a bit of fun, and I'm all about the fun. And I thought if I can include some of the books that I was already planning to read, so for like our fantasy bingo or my 25 series in 2025, then that would work out really well. So I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to move me down really small. Hopefully I can figure out how, and then I will hopefully be able to record this properly, but we'll see. Hopefully I have successfully made myself very tiny in the top right corner, and you can hopefully currently see the website that QWERTY has put together for HRCYED. So this is an extremely useful website. So this gives you links to frequently asked questions, the live, the download for the spreadsheet, which is what I've downloaded and I'll show you in a second, Q&A videos, a link to her Storygraph challenge, journal printouts, all that kind of stuff. In the top right corner up here, you should have like all of the other links to get to each page, but really useful. And like I said, I will link this down below. If this works seamlessly, I will hopefully be able to jump through pages, but we'll give it a go. Okay. So far, so good. Fingers crossed, everyone, that this is actually going to work. So this is the spreadsheet. So this is my downloaded, copied version of QWERTY's spreadsheet. So we're currently looking at the intro page for HRCYED round 2. This is a huge document. So here you have links to her Canva, just info about the whole thing, if you want to DM her with any messages, all that kind of stuff. We're going to move to the next page, which is the bingo board. So this is what we are trying to complete. So the idea is to get a full blackout on the bingo board. So all 26 pages, you can see from that little link that came up. Each of these is linked to a tab down the bottom, but we'll just run through the tabs individually. There are, as you can see, white prompts and purple prompts. So the white prompts are pretty much set in stone. For the most part, it ends up to be the same number of books that you're going to be reading. The purple ones, there's a little bit of ambiguity. So depending on the decisions that I make will depend on how many books I actually end up having to read for these prompts. So these ones are adaptable, which means that everyone's challenge ends up being slightly more or less books depending on what they choose. And you can make it harder or not for yourself. As we go through, I will require some helpful suggestions if you have any on books that I could include in my reading, but there are a few that I think that will just ornately come as we read through the year. QWERTY has also included this lovely tracker, which I have started filling out. I have successfully completed my first book for HRCYED. So yesterday I did finish Rachel Gillig's new book, The Night and the Moth. So you can see I've put it in here, what prompt at the moment that I'm thinking of using it for, the page count, the genre, whether it's new to me author, all that kind of fun stuff. And then there is this cute little like tracker on the amount of days that it took me to read it, which did take a little bit of fiddling, and It was really handy and helpful. There is a Discord that has been put together that you can join, and there are so many helpful people over on there. Because QWERTY is in America, the dates for me being in Australia were coming up backwards. So my dates to read was insane. It was like in the thousands for one of them. I'm like, something's not right. So they did manage to help me figure out how to adapt that, which was very useful. So you can use this just as you go as a general tracker if you don't have a tracker for your reading that way. But it does actually input into the next page, which is the HRCYED stats. So this is just a fun little stat sheet. So this tells you the number of books you've read, the total pages you've read, hours spent if you're doing audio, the amount of money you spent if you know when you bought them or all that kind of stuff. And then there's also this really cool world map, which as you integrate in the other tracker, it inputs in this one. So you can see I've got one little state marked off in the US, and that's because one of the books I've just started, Havenful, it mentioned Colorado, so I think that's kind of where the book's at, so that's what I've put in here. And then others I've got non-earth setting, because mostly I read fantasy, so they don't have an earthly setting, they're a different world. Not fully sure where some of these are coming from, but just interesting. If we scroll down, depending on what prompts I've allocated for a book in the tracker, it'll come up on the left here with my prompt choices. And then we've got like just a round out of my genres, covers, series, all that kind of fun stuff. Up the top, we have the publishers that I'm using. I've added in Bloomsbury. You can make additions to any of the links and options in there, which is handy. Publication year. And then you've got like an author rundown of the authors you've read and the number for each one. So just a cool little stat sheet, which is really handy. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do HRCYED, and one of those is with this handy dandy points tracker. Now, my face where it is going to be covering the top right of this. Sorry about that. I don't know how to move me. So we're just going to have to run with that. But at the top, as you read, you can allocate out these options. So if you do any in the red, you get 1 point, 2 points for orange, 3 for yellow, 4 for green, and then 5 for blue. So with The Knight and the Moth, I ended up getting 1 point for reading it for a different readathon because I did it for my fantasy bingo. I read it by my least favourite means. My least favourite type of book or way to read is a trade paperback. I don't know, it's just something about them. I don't like them. And that is the way that all books in Australia come out first. So a little bit annoying if I wanted to read a new release and I wanted a physical version of it. I did borrow this one from the library, so it was a trade paperback. That's how I read that. It is a book on my physical TBR. I do own it as well. I got a special edition version of it. So I was able to get a few points. And over, if we scroll over, that book gave me 4 points in the end. You can see I've allocated out some other options for these. Now, the points can come in handy with adjusting your reading options. So if you go the points route, if you earn 50 points, I could use a reread. If I earn 100 points, I could use a DNF. I think generally rules for DNFs is you have to have read over 50% of the book for it to count most of the time. A lot of the time I'm DNFing a fair bit earlier than that, but we'll see. It's an option. If I want to triple up on a book, so generally each book you can allocate 2 prompts. So if I wanted to allocate one book to a third prompt, I would need to use 250 points to be able to do that once. If there is a prompt in this whole setup that I am not interested in doing, can't do throughout the year, if I have 500 points, I can remove a prompt, I think is how that works. I would have to double check all of the frequently asked questions and all that kind of stuff. But as far as I'm aware, that's going to cost me 500 points. At the moment, you can see if I do manage to finish the books that I put in here, I'm only up to like 31 points. So to get to 500, I think it'd take me a fair while. So the likelihood of me using that is probably slim to none. But we'll start go through, we'll see how we go. It's just a bit of fun, like I said. The first square in the bingo board is called By the Hundreds. Now, the idea of this one is to read 7 different books, and so they have to be within the 100 range. So I need to find a book between 100 and 199 pages, 200 and 299, and so on and so forth, until I get to the 700, and then it just has to be anything over 700 pages. So I don't have to sit within that hundreds range. I can go higher, whatever I want. QWERTY has set this up so that I can put in the cover image here, which is really cool. And also given you options to put in potential reads. Now, I think this one is going to be really easy to fulfill. I'm not overly worried about getting this one. Like, I could just dump in all of my first lot of reads and get this filled out probably fairly quickly. But when you go through the rest of the document and you see how many prompt options there are, I think this one's going to be so easy to fill that I'll probably want to use some of these books for some of the other possibilities rather than this one. Once you have finished a prompt and you've got all of these last up, if you click this little I did it option and we go back to the bingo board, it should turn your square green. And then I should at the end have all green squares, which would be awesome to see. I'm slightly confident that I'd be able to do that over the course of the year, but we'll see how we go. I'll just unclick my I did it because I haven't done it. And then we'll move on to the next square, which is 24-hour readathon. Now, the idea of this one is to read as many books as you can in a 24-hour period. Now, for me, this means that I don't necessarily have to read for the entirety of 24 hours. I can't do put on a timer, stop and start it over a course of a weekend. It's just one long stretch. So I've got to pick a day where I can start and not have any interruptions. And then it's just whenever I go to bed within that 24 hours, how much I get done is how much I get done. I'm not a hugely quick reader and I don't tend to get through multiple books a day. So mine's probably going to be really lame and be one book, but I will at some point throughout this year give this a go and see how we go. Our next square is subgenres of choice. So the idea of this one is to pick a main subject heading, so fantasy, sci-fi, horror, mystery thriller, romance, whatever you like, and then select 6 subgenres that come underneath that. So fantasy is my main go-to read, it's my favourite genre choice, and so I've picked cozy, dystopian, gothic, urban fantasy, romantasy, and high and epic fantasy for my 6 areas within the fantasy genre. And then as you can see, I have started putting potentials down here of books that I either have already allocated for our fantasy bingo or my 25 and 25, and just others that I want to possibly get to throughout the year already. So I think this one is going to be fairly easy to complete. So we'll see how we go. The next square we come across is the series staircase. So the idea of this is to read a solo book, then a duology, a full duology throughout the year. You've got to do start and finish of all of these throughout this year period. A trilogy, and then 4 or more. So it can be a 4-book series or it can be a 4 or 5-book series, but it's 4 books within there. If I am in the middle of a series that is over 4 books long, so something say like Wheel of Time, I could use the 4 books that I was up to. Unfortunately, I only have 2 left in that series, so that's not an option for me, but that is something you could do. Over the course of the year, I will definitely be completing the Of Blood and Bone trilogy by John Gwynne, because I'm doing Becca and the Books' Catch-Up Book Club. So that could be just an easy slot in there, even though I do have some other trilogies that I've added as possibilities. I'd say it would make the most sense probably for me to do A Blood and Bone, because by the end of this year I will have that finished. But again, I think this one's going to be fairly easy to put in, except for solo. I don't read a huge amount of just solo fantasy. I guess any solo book's going to work, but if you have any suggestions, a good solo fantasy, I wouldn't mind them. The next one we have is award season. So the idea of this one is to pick one or multiple different awards and then read at least one winner, one finalist, one semi-finalist, and one entrant to an award. I can double up, so I have put in the Goodreads Choice Awards here, but I could do a Booker Prize book as well as the Goodreads Choice Awards if I wanted. I don't have to just stick to one awards. As you can see, there is more than 4 little squares up here. So once I've done one of each, I then can pick whatever I want. So I could do another 3 winners and a finalist, another 3 winners, however I want, but I have to end up with 7 books along the top here when I'm finished. I have started putting some possibilities down the bottom here, just of ones that, again, are already on my to-read list that would be easy to go in there. One of which is God in the Woods, which has come out as my In Real Life book club for next month. So I will definitely be trying that one. So that could just be an easy slot in for a winner straight away. The next where we come to is TBR Game Challenge. Now, I do have a TBR game that I play every month. However, I cannot use mine. But I was extremely honoured when I was looking at this to notice that QWERTY actually included my TBR game as an option for people to play, which was just such an honour when I noticed that. I've only been on YouTube this year. I've only played my game 3 times. It was only twice when this came out, and I'm so honoured that she included it as an option. I'm not entirely sure how easy it would be for other people to play, but hopefully someone out there enjoys watching the video. And I've had so many people come and watch my first video that is linked here, so thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me. So I have to pick a game that I am going to play. Now, I don't have to do this instead of my game. I can play this TBR game whenever I want and then just take whatever prompts I get and then include that in my reading throughout the year. I have watched a fair few of these now. I'm still undecided which one I'm going to go with, but hopefully I'll pick soon, and all the prompts will end up down here, and then I just tick them off as I complete them. The next one we've got is the last 10 years. So the idea of this one is to read 11 books that were published between 2015 and 2026. So I don't necessarily have to, so if I do from 2015, I don't necessarily have to do the 2026. I'll probably just read one from each year. I have the option. So I've already, as you can see, popped in The Night and the Moth, which was released this year. So this is one of the prompts that I've allocated that book to. I think, again, this one's going to be fairly easy to fill out. The only year that I'm struggling to find a book on my TBR is 2019. So, if any good books came out in 2019, let me know. But yeah, I think overall this one's going to be fairly easy to fill out. Next up, we have all the adaptations. Now, this one is slightly different. QWERTY put this one in, so it gave you a bit of leeway. You didn't have to read a book. So you could watch a play or a movie or a TV show or a web series instead of reading. You do get bonus points if you do both. So if I watch the web series and read the source material, I can get an extra 5 bonus points that I could use in that tracker I showed you a bit earlier. So some of these I'm a bit stumped on. I have already watched the Lizzie Bennet Diary since HRCYED started, and I do plan on reading Pride and Prejudice again. Technically, I have read Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice is the only classic I have ever read, but it was over 10 years ago. So with QWERTY's rules, as long as the book was over 10 years ago, I can use it as a reread without needing to use points for a reread. That also works really well for another prompt square in a bit, which I'll go into. So my web series I've got covered. I'm pretty happy with that one. Musical should be fairly easy. There is a lot of musicals now that you can watch on streaming channels, which has been really handy. At the moment, I'm thinking of doing Hamilton. Whether I read the Alexander Hamilton biography, who knows? For the most part, I am planning to do both, but we'll see what happens. The one I'm really struggling with, as you can see, I haven't filled anything out for, is the graphic novel and comic. I'm not a huge graphic novel person. I don't read them at all. I have no idea what to put in for this one. So if anyone has any suggestions of a book that was turned into a graphic novel that I could use, where I could read both, please let me know. I think movie will be fairly easy, although a lot of the time I have seen a lot of the movies but not necessarily read the book, where I would like one where I could do both at once. I don't know. I did come up with one maybe idea. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head anymore, which is a bit annoying. But something Reckoning, maybe? I can't even remember. I would know it if I saw it again. I just have to relook. But for the most part, these ones shouldn't be too hard. Play was another one I got stumped on for a while. I did come across a website bought out by the National Theatre Company in the UK, I think, where I can subscribe and watch plays online. And the one I found on there that I either had never read the book for or I thought would work really well for this was Peter Pan. I think it was going to cost me like $10 or something to actually sign up to watch it. So whether I do that or if you know of a way that I can watch a play that doesn't require me actually going to see a play, that would be really great. If you could let me know down below, that would be super helpful. Alrighty, so then we move on to Heritage Months. Now, these are Heritage Months that are from America. So I live in Australia, like I said before. We don't necessarily have these Heritage Months, and I can apparently change them to match ones here. I don't know that I know what a lot of, but yeah, I think I'll probably just stick to these. I will probably need to do a fair bit of research into these. Any suggestions, again, please feel free to leave them down below. And I think the Discord is going to probably have to help me out a fair bit for this one as well. Some of them will be fairly easy, like the LGBTQI+, or yeah, but any suggestions for this? I need one book for each month. I don't, even though there is months listed up here, I don't have to read them specifically in those months. It's just whenever I want throughout the year. So any suggestions, please feel free to leave down below. We then have Translation Challenge. I, again, don't read a huge amount of translated books. There has been a huge increase lately that I've seen, especially over Book Talk, on Japanese translated fiction. And I have read one of the Witcher books, which was translated from Polish. So that would count. But again, any suggestions of good translated fiction, please let me know. We then have Around the World. So this one is to read a book where the author either comes from or the book is set in these areas of the world. So we've got North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and then you'll see that Antarctica is on the end as a bonus. QWERTY didn't think that there'd be a huge amount of books that were either set in Antarctica or had someone from Antarctica who had written them. So if I do manage to find one that is there, I can get a bonus 5 points for including that one. And since the announcement video, there has been a lot of discussion about the Antarctica prompt in the Discord, so a lot of people have put out some titles. So I think that one should be fairly easy overall to do. I've mainly done with my potentials authors where they come from because I knew that seemed a lot easier for me because, again, a lot of fantasy is not set on Earth that I read anyway. But yeah, so that one hopefully should be fairly easy. We then have the Even Bigger Rainbow Challenge. So this was a challenge that was in the first HRCYED, but she has increased the colours. So the idea is to match the book cover with the colour. So you can see I've got my potentials down the bottom here. Again, these are ones that I was already planning to read or have in my extended TBR. I think pink's probably going to be one of the hardest for me. There's not a lot of fantasy books that I have come across that have pink covers, but we'll see. And then there's one that's 7+ colours, so it just needs to be a super multicoloured book. But at the moment, these are my potentials. I think overall, in my reading, this one should be fairly easy, but we'll see how we go. The next prompt is one of the purple prompts. So this one will change depending on what people pick. The idea is to make a quote and then read a book for every word within that quote. I thought about this for such a long time, but I've taken a quote from one of my favourite book series, which is Black Jewel's books by Anne Bishop, so specifically in this case, Daughter of the Blood. And the quote is, "Mother Night and may the darkness be merciful." And that appears throughout that series a lot. Half of the characters say it constantly. As you can see down the bottom here, I have put in a lot of books that I'm considering reading for these. The only ones I'm struggling with to find an option for is Mother, May, and B. So any suggestions for those would be great. I did come across one merciful one. I thought that was going to be the hardest to find. And then I found a fantasy book that I'm hoping is going to be really good, which is called The Merciful Crow. So that will fit really well. I've already got it on hold at the library, so hopefully that one will be good and I'll be able to finish that off because I couldn't see many other options when it came to books with merciful in the titles. Next off, we have Spooky Creatures. So this is to read a book with a vampire, a shifter, magic user, fae folk, spirit, merfolk, which includes like krakens, sirens, all of that kind of stuff. zombie, and then other creature. So 1 at least. I already know that I will be reading Serpent and the Wings of Night, which has vampires in it, but that's the only one that I've really allocated as a possibility for now. But I think this one should be fairly easy to complete. We then have Become an Avatar. So the idea of this is to find a book where either the cover image has water, earth, fire, or air on the cover. They have to be 4 different books, or have those specific words, so it has to be water, earth, fire, and air in the title. These ones, I came across this series. As you can see, I've got the same covers in for both. I don't technically have to do both. I just had to pick one where if I went for cover image, they all had to be the cover image. And if I went for word and title, they all have to be word and the title. And this just, when I was looking around, the fact that this works for cover and in title, I just really liked. I have got the first one on my Kindle app, so I'm hoping that they're not too bad and that I'll be able to read them, because I just really like the fact that they work for both. Really looking forward to giving those a go. We then have the Readathon challenge. Now, there was a lot of options for this. You don't necessarily have to do the Readathon while it's happening in real life, but you, again, take the prompts from a reading challenge. A lot of people are doing, say, a semester of Beryllium, or this last month, it was Summerween. I came across one in January that I was really interested in. I have a feeling, I think it's put out by Book Roast, and it goes on along with Beryllium, but it's not Beryllium. So I'll pop it up on the screen if it will let me. And it's the Adventures in Audia. So it's this board here. Can I make that slightly easier to read? No. Anyway, this is the game board. So the idea is that you start in the middle and you pick a track to go, and each month of the year you read a different book. So this started in January. I was only starting BookTube in January, and I didn't want to get too ahead of myself with a whole heap of challenges. So even though I was really interested in this, I didn't start. But the first one to get in the first square on 1A, 1D, 1C, 1B is to read a book from 2024. So I think I'm going to do that, and then as I finish that book, I'll move to the next option and option after that. So there's a whole list here where you go through, and it works, and it tells you the first challenge, and then you go down, and then once I pick what I'm going to do, I get the next one. So I just thought that that would be a fun little thing. I can do that just throughout the year at my own pace. And I think that is the reading challenge I'm going to do. And that way I get to do it even though I wasn't technically doing it as they were going throughout the year. I really like the game board aspect of it. I have watched a fair few of these now, and there were another couple that I thought were really interesting, so I could pick those if that one doesn't work, but I think that one will work. It does add, 12 books to my challenge, 1 a month, but it just looked like a lot of fun. We then have animals. So this one has to have books where the animal is fairly central character. So it has to be a house pet, an exotic pet, a farm animal, a wild animal, and a zoo animal. So I really wanted to include the Knight and the Moth in this section because, I don't know if you've read it yet or not, but one of the main characters is a talking gargoyle. I was just that's such an exotic pet. But in the end, I restrained myself and I didn't use that here, but I was so tempted. We then have the Even Bigger Queer Alphabet. So I think this was one, again, that they did in HRCYED 1, but she has added in a few more options. So I need to read a book with each of these being one of the main characters having this. So one book has to have gay representation, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, transgender, intersex, asexual, polyamory, non-binary, agender, and gender fluid through spirit. I'm not entirely sure what some of those are, I will admit. But again, I'm hoping the Discord will help me out. If you have any suggestions, a couple of these I can easily just take off straight away. I like reading gay fiction, and a few of the new books that I've even just opened have lesbians as the main characters. So I think some of these will be fairly easy. Others I might need a bit more help with. The next one we have is to pick your favourite prompt from HRCYED 1. So this was the bingo board that they worked on in HRCYED 1. There is a couple of challenges on here that I would really like to do. So like the complete the A to Z challenge, that would have added in though 26 books to my reading for the year. So I thought that might be a little bit ambitious. So the idea of that one is to read a book where either the title or the author has a letter. So say Night in the Moth, it'd be a K, or if I was doing it for the author, it'd be like R, I think, for Rachel Gillig, or G for Gillig, one of the two. But yeah, I just thought that was a bit too many. So one I'm thinking I am going to do is read 3 books with protagonists whose names are people you know. You can also include yourself. I've just started a book called Havenful by Sarah Holland, and the main character in there is called Maddie. And I have a niece called Maddie. It is spelt slightly different, so hopefully that doesn't matter. But I think that that was a handy, quick, easy one, and it only adds 3 books to my challenge. So maybe slightly pop out, but I thought that that one was a good choice. We then have BIPOC authors. So you need to read, and I think 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 different authors that are Black, Indigenous, or people of colour. So I have started putting in a few options. The only stipulation on this, it has to be 10 different authors. So I can't double up on any authors, but I can double up, obviously, on whether they're Black, Indigenous, or people of colour. And there was a few that I already had on interest that I was planning on reading that will work really well with this one. So that seems like it's going to be okay to do as well. We then have new releases. So the idea of this is to read a new release within 60 days of it coming out. So if you have ARCs, you can go before, but otherwise you can go after. So as you can see, I popped in The Night and the Moth here for May. So that was released in May. So even though I read it in July, I can count it as May. So now I don't have to read a new release in May 2026, which, considering how close to the end of the challenge that will be, I think that's going to work out really well. So I'm hoping to get my June one done as well, so I don't have to worry about that. But we'll see how we go. I do have a few that I know are coming out in the next couple of months that I'm really interested in reading. So hopefully those ones I can get done, and that will be fairly easy as well. We then have another purple prompt, which is challenge yourself. So this will be different again for everyone that is doing the challenge. So my challenge that I've given myself is to read all of Jane Austen's books. So like I said earlier, I've only ever read one classic, and that was Pride and Prejudice. So I'm going to redo Pride and Prejudice, as well as read all of her other work, along with her incomplete novels that have since come out. So the Watson, Sanderson, and Lady Susan. And I think there might be another one, I'm not entirely sure. But at the moment, they're the ones I'm planning. And then that works in with my adaptations a bit as well, which is really handy. And so I think that that one is a good challenge. This is probably going to be my hardest one. So this is the non-fiction challenge. I do not like non-fiction books. If I read a non-fiction, it is generally only a biography every now and then. So as you can see, my 2 potentials are biographies. And if I could read just 5 biographies, that would be awesome. I could probably do that, no problems, but I can't. I can use 1 biography, and then I need 4 other subject areas. So yeah, I have no idea what I'm going to read for these. Like I said, I don't read nonfiction if I can all avoid it. So yeah, I have no idea. Any suggestions of good nonfiction, leave them down below. Last but not least, we then have Q recommendations. So Q puts out mini reviews, full reading vlogs, and YouTube short, TikToks, Instagram reels, and you had to go through those and pick a book that she has reviewed and then read it and see if you agreed with her or not. So I already had planned to read 5 Broken Blades. So when I saw that one, I was like, awesome, that's going to work great for that. And then these 2, as I was watching, she made them sound really interesting. So I've popped those on, and at this stage, they're the ones I am planning on reading, though I do have a couple more potentials, especially for the TikToks, Instagram Shorts ones that I also have on my want to read list that will hopefully come up and be really helpful. So that is the challenge. Like I said, don't know that I even want to know how many books that works out to be. I think that would make me way too nervous. So I'm not going to count. Maybe towards the end of the year, if I'm getting close, I might see how many I've ended up doing. But yeah, I think it's just going to be really fun, and hopefully I can finish it. Like I said, don't hold out a huge amount of hope, but I'm not ruling myself out either. Like I said at the beginning, if this is actually worth this time, I'm going to be so happy. I really want this video to go out and I don't want to record it again. What did you think? Are you interested in doing HRCYED? Is it something that you could see yourself attempting? Any suggestions, like I said throughout the video, if you have any for any of the topics, please leave them down below. I would love the help. I'm just really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a bit of fun. I don't know if I will actually be able to complete it, but we'll see how we go. And I have a whole year, so hopefully I can get it done. If you would like to see more from me, I do release a video at least once a week. I have linked down below my Instagram, my Storygraph, and my Goodreads if you'd like to follow me over on any of those. If you haven't subscribed yet, please feel free to do so. Give this video a like if you liked it, and hopefully I see you again in my next one. And I hope that wherever you are having a really wonderful day. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.